Let me ask you something. Have you ever faced a moment so tough that you thought, God, where are you? Maybe everything you built started crumbling. Maybe the people you trusted walked away. Maybe the doors you knocked on stayed closed. But I'm here to tell you this. Just because it's hard doesn't mean God is absent. Just because you can't trace his hand doesn't mean you can't trust his heart. So today, we're going to talk about how trusting God in difficult times isn't just possible, it's powerful, it's profitable, and it's purposeful. Pain has purpose. That's a truth many struggle to accept, especially when life feels like it's falling apart. But if you take a closer look, pain isn't just something we survive, it's something that shapes us. It doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to develop you. When you begin to see pain through the lens of purpose, everything shifts. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Because here's the truth. Every challenge, every trial, every painful season carries within it a seed of greatness if you choose to grow through it, not just go through it. Pain has a way of revealing what comfort hides. When everything is going well, you don't question things, you don't stretch, and you don't evolve. But pain forces you out of the shallow waters and into the deep end, where trust in God becomes real, raw, and powerful. Pain pushes you to pray like never before. It pulls out strength you didn't know you had. It births wisdom, maturity, resilience, and purpose that only the fire of adversity can produce. You see, the fire doesn't destroy gold, it refines it. And your pain, when surrendered to God, becomes the refining fire that brings out your value. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine a young man who loses his job unexpectedly. Bills are piling up, fear creeps in, and doors that once seemed open now feel slammed shut. On the surface, it looks like failure, but during those months of uncertainty, he discovers gifts he never used before. He starts helping friends with their business strategies, using his natural talents to bring in new clients. Eventually, he launches his own consulting company, not because he planned it, but because pain pushed him. What looked like a setback was actually a set-up. Without losing the job, he would have never stepped into his purpose. That's what pain does. It pushes you into places you are too comfortable to walk into yourself. It shifts you, it humbles you, it prepares you for the weight of what's next. The mistake we often make is trying to escape pain before it finishes its work. But purpose is on the other side of process. And process often comes wrapped in pain. God doesn't waste pain. He recycles it. He uses it to prepare you for what he's already prepared for you. So instead of resisting it, learn to recognize it as a sign that something greater is being formed within you. Trust that the pain has a purpose you may not understand right now, but you will appreciate later. And when that moment comes, you'll look back and say, it had to happen. Because without the pain, you wouldn't have become the person God intended you to be. So stand firm. Don't despise the pain. Discover the purpose in it. Trust is a decision, not a feeling. That's something we all need to understand, especially when life gets tough and emotions run wild. You see, feelings change. They come and go like the wind. One moment you feel confident, the next you feel afraid. One day you're full of faith, the next you're full of doubt. But trust is different. Trust is not based on what you feel, it's based on what you choose. It's a conscious decision to believe that God is who he says he is and that he will do what he said he will do, regardless of how you feel in the moment. If you only trust God when you feel good, that's not trust. That's convenience. Real trust shows up when things don't make sense, when the bank account is empty, when the doctor's report isn't good, when prayers go unanswered. That's when trust becomes a decision, not a reaction. It's choosing to say, God, I don't understand this, but I still trust you. I don't see the way, but I trust that you are the way. And the reason trust can't be based on feelings is because feelings lie. Emotions are temporary. They are like waves, high and low. But God's word, that's stable. That's unchanging. That's the rock you can build your life on. So when the storm hits and you don't feel strong, you choose trust. When your heart is breaking, you choose trust. When you're tired, when you're confused, when you're afraid, you still choose trust. Let me give you a real world example. There was a young woman who applied for her dream job. Everything seemed perfect. She had the qualifications, the experience, and even a strong referral. She prayed, fasted, believed, and still got rejected. Naturally, she felt disappointed. She felt overlooked. Her emotions screamed, "This isn't fair." But instead of falling into bitterness, she made a decision to trust God anyway. She reminded herself, if God closed this door, he must have a better one. 2 months later, out of nowhere, she got a call from a company she hadn't even applied to. They offered her a higher position with better pay, more flexibility, and a healthier work environment. What looked like a closed door was actually God's redirection. Her feelings said God forgot her, but her decision to trust opened the door to something better. That's what happens when you trust God on purpose. It's not about ignoring your emotions. It's about not letting them control your choices. Trust is the anchor that holds you steady when everything around you is shaking. It's the firm step forward when the path is unclear. It's the yes to God's will even when your heart is hurting. So remember this. You may not always feel strong, but you can always choose to trust. And every time you do, you're building a life rooted in faith, not feelings. That's where real peace, real strength, and real breakthrough begins. God's delays are not God's denial. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. In our fast-paced world, we expect instant results. Fast food, instant messages, next day delivery. So when God takes time, we often think he's saying no when he's really saying not yet. But the truth is, divine timing is always perfect. God doesn't work on our schedule, he works on his. And his timing isn't designed to frustrate us, it's designed to prepare us. Delay is not denial, it's development. When God delays, it's often because there's something he's working on behind the scenes, something in the situation or something in us. Sometimes he's preparing the promise, but most times he's preparing us for the promise. And if we get what we ask for before we're ready, what was meant to bless us could break us. That's why the waiting season is not a wasted season. It's where strength is built. It's where character is formed. It's where trust is tested and deepened. We must stop interpreting silence as absence. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean God isn't working. In fact, some of God's greatest miracles happen silently. Seeds grow underground before they sprout above the surface. You may not see it yet, but something is happening beneath the surface. God is aligning people, opening doors, closing others, and arranging everything according to his perfect plan. Let me give you a powerful example. There was a man who dreamed of becoming a published author. He wrote his manuscript with passion and purpose, believing that God had placed the message on his heart. He submitted it to dozens of publishers, and every single one rejected it. Months turned into years, and he began to wonder, did I hear God wrong? But instead of giving up, he continued to improve his craft, trusting that if God gave him the vision, he would also give him the platform. 5 years later, a small publishing house took a chance on his book. It started slow, but through word of mouth and persistence, it gained momentum. That book ended up becoming a bestseller, translated into multiple languages, and touched thousands of lives. Looking back, he realized that the original rejections weren't denials, they were delays that prepared him for a greater impact. If he had been published earlier, he wouldn't have reached the same level of depth, maturity, or influence. That's how God works. When he delays, he's not being cruel, he's being careful. He knows what you need, when you need it, and how it needs to come. So instead of letting delay discourage you, let it develop you. Instead of doubting, start preparing. Because when God finally opens the door, you won't have to scramble to get ready. You'll already be ready. Remember this, a delay from God is a sign that something bigger, better, or more beautiful is on the way. Stay faithful, stay expectant. God hasn't said no, he's just getting everything in place for your yes. Speak life, even in loss. That's one of the most powerful principles you can live by. When you go through pain, disappointment, heartbreak, or grief, your words become even more important. Because in those moments, your mouth is not just expressing what's happening, it's shaping what's coming next. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. You can speak defeat or you can speak destiny. You can curse the season or you can bless your future. But make no mistake, what you speak in loss reveals what you believe in your heart. Loss has a way of making you feel powerless. It can make you want to shut down and give up. But that's exactly when your words must rise above your situation. Speaking life isn't about pretending things are okay. It's about declaring that something greater is still possible. It's saying, yes, I've lost something, but I haven't lost everything. I've been knocked down, but I'm not staying down. God is still good. My future is still full. My purpose is still alive. Your words are seeds and loss is the soil. In the middle of your brokenness, what you plant with your speech determines what will grow next. If you speak bitterness, you'll grow anger. If you speak fear, you'll grow anxiety. But if you speak faith, even through tears, you'll grow strength, you'll grow hope, you'll grow the power to keep going. Speaking life is not denying your pain, it's deciding that your pain won't define you. Let me give you a beautiful example. There was a woman who lost her husband unexpectedly. They had been married for over 20 years. He was her best friend, her provider, her partner in everything. Naturally, she was devastated. Everyone expected her to collapse emotionally. And she did grieve. She cried, she prayed, she questioned, but even in the midst of that loss, she kept speaking life. She would say things like, God is still with me. This pain has a purpose. I will smile again. I will live again. People around her began to notice. Her faith didn't erase the grief, but it transformed the grief. Instead of becoming bitter, she became a voice of encouragement for other widows. She eventually started a support group for women who had lost their spouses, and through that group, many found healing and hope. Her pain didn't silence her, it gave her a message, and that message became a ministry, all because she chose to speak life, even in loss. So no matter what you've lost, whether it's a person, a dream, a job, or a season, don't let your mouth agree with the darkness. Speak light, speak promise, speak victory. Say, I'm still standing. I'm still breathing. God still has a plan for me. Because what you speak in the valley will determine how you rise on the mountain. Let your words water the seeds of your future. Speak life and watch life come back to you. Obedience over outcome is one of the most important truths you can live by if you want to walk in purpose. Too often we focus on results, what we want to see, what we expect to happen, how we want things to turn out. But real faith isn't measured by the outcome. It's measured by obedience. God never asked you to control the outcome. He simply asked you to obey. The results are in his hands. Your responsibility is to follow his instructions, even when they don't make sense, even when they don't produce immediate rewards, and even when you don't understand why. Obedience is about trust. It's about saying, God, I believe you know better than I do. It's saying yes to his plan, even when your plan looks easier or more comfortable. The truth is, obedience is rarely convenient, but it's always powerful. When you obey, you align yourself with God's divine strategy. You may not see the full picture, but he does. And sometimes the blessing doesn't come before the obedience, it comes because of it. We often think, if I obey, everything will work out the way I want. But that's not obedience. That's a transaction. Real obedience says, even if I don't get the outcome I want, I'll still do what God said. It's not about the reward, it's about the relationship. God isn't looking for people who follow him only for results. He's looking for people who follow him because they trust his character. Here's a powerful example. There was a man who felt led to give a large financial gift to a struggling family in his community. He wasn't wealthy himself and didn't have much saved, but he felt God clearly prompting him to give. He obeyed, even though it didn't make logical sense. He gave the money quietly, expecting nothing in return. Weeks went by, nothing changed. No big breakthrough, no open doors, no sudden miracle. But he kept walking in obedience. Then months later, a company he had applied to long ago reached out unexpectedly. Not only did they offer him a job, but it came with a higher salary than he'd ever made, flexible hours, and the chance to work in a field he loved. He later found out that someone from that family he helped had mentioned his kindness to a connection at that company. His obedience opened a door he never could have predicted. But the key is this: he didn't give to get, he gave because God said to. The outcome was a blessing, but obedience came first. That's how God works. The miracle isn't just in the outcome, it's in the obedience. Your breakthrough, your next level, your open door, it's all tied to your willingness to say yes to God before you see the result. So stop stressing over the outcome, obey the instruction. Trust his process, because when you put obedience first, the outcome will always follow in his way, in his time, and for his glory. Remember his record. When life gets hard and faith feels weak, one of the most powerful things you can do is look back, not to dwell on your past pain, but to recall God's past faithfulness. In times of fear, doubt, or uncertainty, your memory becomes a weapon, because when you remember what God has done, it strengthens your belief in what he can do. The enemy loves to make you forget. He wants to isolate you in the moment to make it feel like this problem is bigger than your God. But when you pause and remember his track record, everything changes. God has never failed you. He has never broken a promise. He has never left you alone. Even when you felt alone, he's been there in every storm, every valley, every heartbreak, every miracle. His record is perfect. And if he's been faithful before, he'll be faithful again. That truth gives you the courage to keep moving forward even when your emotions say otherwise. Because sometimes the battle isn't about what's happening, it's about what you've forgotten. Remembering his record helps you shift from fear to faith. It changes your perspective. It reminds you that this isn't the first time you've been unsure or scared or waiting. And every time he came through. Maybe not always the way you expected, but always in the way you needed. That's why gratitude is powerful. When you begin to thank God for what he's already done, your spirit lifts. You stop magnifying the problem and start magnifying the God who has already proven himself trustworthy. Let me share a great example. There was a young couple who had been trying to have a child for years. Every month brought disappointment, and every doctor visit seemed to offer less hope. They were exhausted, emotionally drained, and tempted to give up. But one night in prayer, they began to remember. They remembered how God provided for them when they couldn't pay rent. They remembered how he healed the husband after a car accident. They remembered how God brought them together in the first place, against all odds. That night, something shifted. They still didn't have the outcome they were praying for, but they had something just as important: faith. Their hearts filled with peace. They began to thank God not just for the child they were hoping for, but for the countless blessings they had already seen. And months later, when they had stopped striving and just trusted, they conceived naturally. The child was born healthy and strong. But even before that breakthrough, their faith had returned because they chose to remember his record. So no matter what you're facing today, take a moment. Remember the doors he's opened. Remember the healing he's done. Remember the strength he gave you when you had none. His record is flawless. And if he did it before, he will do it again. Don't let today's challenge erase yesterday's testimony. Let your memory feed your faith. God's record speaks for itself. Family, listen to me. Trusting God in difficult times is not weakness. It's warrior strength. It's standing when everything says fall. It's believing when everything says break. It's praising when your heart is in pieces. And when you trust him in the test, he'll turn it into your testimony. You're not alone. You're not abandoned. You are divinely designed for victory. So walk like it, trust like it. Because your breakthrough is not coming, it's already on the way. Keep the faith, trust the process, and watch what God does next.